Welcome presenters to our first NAC Let's Talk Tuesday. Thank you both for being with us today. It really helps us out. My name is Ruben Garcia, and I'm a junior at Lowry High School in Winnemucca, and I am this year's NAC Northern Region Rep.
Hi, my name is Christina. I go to Valley High School in Las Vegas, and I am the current student member to the Nevada Board of Education.
Hello, my name is Gianna Archuleta. I go to Actactsat in Las Vegas, and I'm currently the 3A Vice President.
And we have our two presenters today. So do we want to start off with Ms. Fifield?
Good morning. My name is Cherese Fifield, and I work in the Career Center at Albert M. Lowry High School, really known as Lowry High School, in Winnemucca. And just here to hopefully answer some questions this early.
Hello, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Nubel Davis, and I am a senior financial aid advisor as well as an admissions counselor for the University of Nevada, Reno. I am a University of Nevada, Reno alum, so I graduated from there. I have 2 undergraduate degrees and my master's degree, and I'm originally from Las Vegas. I was born and raised down there and then moved up to Reno for college.
Okay, so thank you guys so much for coming today. We wanted to do a Let's Talk Tuesday episode on some college questions that students around the Valley may have, especially concerning Nevada-specific scholarships and admissions and just things that have been happening recently. And we felt that you two would be really great resources for students to be able to listen back on and get that information. So we'll just be asking you a couple questions just that we think that students would want to hear. So first off, how available is the Millennium Scholarship to Nevada students, and what are some of the requirements in order to obtain the scholarship?
So I'm happy to grab that one if you'd like. So the Millennium Scholarship is an amazing scholarship program for all students in the state of Nevada who are planning to stay in state for their choice of higher education, because it only works if you're attending one of our schools in the Nevada system of higher education. What's great about the scholarship is there's not an application needed, and any student that qualifies will receive the Millennium Scholarship as long as they meet the eligibility requirements. So some of those are 4 years of English, 4 years of math, 3 years natural, 3 years social science. Those are the academic requirements in school. Students have to have been in Nevada high school for 2 years in order to receive Millennium. And then the GPA requirement would be looking at a 3.25 weighted or unweighted GPA in order to qualify. Or we can also use test scores as well. They'll also use that to determine it if a student doesn't have the GPA. So like that statewide ACT that we take, if you have a 21 on that, that can also grant you Millennium. And that'll take you to any of the institutions in Nevada. And the amount will vary depending on if you're attending a university, if you're attending a college or a community college.
I think one thing that the graduating students need to realize is that they don't have to apply. I get every year, what do I do for the Millennium? Where's the, that it's one of the simplest scholarships you will ever have to deal with, because the way that that works is once you graduate with all your requirements and you meet your GPA and or your test scores, the registrar at the high school will send that information to your district, and your district office then pushes those qualifying students to the state. And then the state will notify you through the mail. So whatever information you have in Infinite Campus at the end of the school year is where they're going to mail your letter explaining how you log on and accept that scholarship. So make sure that all your information is up to date in Infinite Campus before graduation. Make sure if you're if you even think you're going to be moving or not think, but you know what I'm saying, like just make sure that they have a good mailing address for you in Infinite Campus, because that's where they're going to mail your letter that lets you know that you have qualified and how to accept that. So that's something I think that you need to remember, is keep your information up to date. Well, that's helpful anytime, actually.
And how can you improve your chances of getting more from the Millennium Scholarship? If your GPA is higher, do you get more, or is that kind of how it works? Or
Yeah, so the Millennium has set amounts, again, depending on kind of the type of college that you'll be attending. So using university level, since I work for the University of Nevada as an example, Millennium is $80 per credit if you attend one of our universities in the state. So UNLV or University of Nevada, Reno, $80 per credit, up to 15 credits per semester, which is, at the university, that's typically standard is what we have an incoming freshmen try to take is 15 credits per semester. So $80 per credit, up to 15 credits per semester. You do have to take a minimum of 12 credits. So if you are attending the university, you take 30 credits over the course of the year. It's 1,200 per semester, 2,400 per the year. The maximum you can get from Millennium is 10,000. So if you reach that amount, then it would be essentially cut off. But 2,400 times 4 years, there's plenty of room in there to use it all 4 years. Plus, if you end up taking like a summer class, Millennium can also be used towards summer as well. So the amount will not fluctuate regardless of kind of your GPA or test scores in high school. It'll be set on how many credits you're taking really in college. And then if you go to like community college, let's say you're going to CSN or TMCC, Truckee Meadow Community College, it's $40 per credit. And I think Nevada State's 60, but you want to check with them.
And I think possibly, I have to check that too. I wish I would have, because I think GBC might be 60.
I think GBC is in WNC, I think.
Right. I know, I was very sorry. We're going to be researching that. Give ourselves some homework.
Yeah, there we go.
And like,
Oh,
out
sorry.
of curiosity, like what's any background information from the Millennium? Obviously, most Nevada students know what Millennium is. We most would know that, of course, you don't apply to it, but just what's the general background from it? How did it come to play? Where did that really start getting pushed at?
So Millennium started, I want to say in 1999. The Millennium Scholarship, year 2000. It's funny because it's often referred to as the Millennial Scholarship. I hear that more often than I hear Millennium. The students call it Millennial Scholarship.
Yeah, we're getting a little older, aren't we?
Yeah, I know. It's been around since 1999, and it's an incredible resource for students here in the state of Nevada. And it doesn't look like it's going anywhere just because based on the funding sources that they have for the Millennium Scholarship. And that's what makes it such a great program. And, especially when we're looking at our in-state costs for all of our schools in the state of Nevada, it's incredibly affordable for students to attend in-state. So then having the Millennium stacked on top of that, really helps to increase, I guess, the value that students are able to receive from our schools. But yeah, I don't know too much about the origins. I know it's the Kenny Nguyen Millennium Scholarship started in 99, but I don't know. I guess kind of what came about it. So I don't know if you have any more info.
It did. One of the pushes, I guess, is to keep our students in state, to home grow a lot of our engineers and geologists and things that, especially here in Northern Nevada, that we, in our mining industry at least, we don't have, at the time that this push was, it's gotten better, we didn't have as many people from Nevada staying in Nevada to pursue their engineering degrees and things like that. And we were having to bring them from out of state. So it's been it was a way to kind of home grow and keep them here. And there was some slush funds, I don't know if that's the right wording, from some tobacco industry settlement that they had. And that's kind of what started the funding for it. That was the seed money. And so that's kind of the thought was, if we could use that seed money to start a scholarship to keep our students in state and make it more affordable, and keep it more reasonable. Like you said, even though our in-state tuition is very reasonable to begin with. So that's kind of a little bit of that background.
It's very interesting that like they push that just to keep people into Nevada.
Mm-hmm.
That's very cool, I guess.
I kind of had a follow-up question that kind of leads us on to our next question. So now with ACT and SAT scores being optional for a lot of like schools, how does that impact our eligibility to receive scholarships, whether that's the Millennium Scholarship or in school scholarships? Because I know that UNR and UNLV offer scholarships like within the school depending on your GPA and your test scores. So like how is that being affected with the test optional?
Yeah, I think especially given everything last year with COVID and the lack of availability truly with testing, it's a little different in Nevada because we have that state mandated ACT, but kind of outside of Nevada, that's not the case for SAT nor ACT for many schools and many students. So we made the decision as far as our university goes to take a holistic approach to scholarships. We used to be very rigid. SAT, ACT, and GPA was a matrix. That's the score you got. It was looking at students, I guess you could think of it kind of as numbers. You had these two, and if you didn't meet them, you didn't get a scholarship. Now, what the university is doing, and many other universities and scholarship organizations are doing, is going test optional. So for example, again, I just can speak on behalf of the University of Nevada, Reno. What we look at is our students' unweighted GPA still, but now we have a scholarship application where we have a team of scholarship evaluators who review every single scholarship application. We're looking at activities that students are involved with now. We're looking at extracurriculars. We're looking at how many honors, AP, IB classes that you've taken. We're looking at what are you doing outside of school as well? And then essay components, so you really have a chance to say who you are and what you do more than, just who you are again, based on your numbers. And that is seemingly going to be a trend for many universities that I've seen, is that we are taking a much less rigid approach when it comes to using test scores to evaluate our students. Not looking at scholarships, we still are using test scores if students have them, like we're not requiring them, but we can kind of dive into that, I guess, after the scholarship talk component, I guess, when it comes to test scores. So right. Yeah, they're not as much of a factor, absolutely, as they were even just 2 years ago.
Yes, especially for scholarships, yes, I agree. And I don't know, Elizabeth, like you said, you're going to maybe dive into that later, so you might answer this question as far as it goes for classroom placement.
Yep.
So the standardized testing has always been, I think, a hot topic, a much debated topic, because it is, like you said, numbers. If you hear and hear, and then you're in this matrix, or some have the test anxiety, or especially the way I know how we do it. They're in the gym when they take the test. There's 3 to 4 people per table, and you're all in the gym, and it's so the testing environment is always talked about, and so it's always been a hot topic, and it's going to be interesting, the conversation, and how much longer that's going to be our go-to, especially when there's the AccuPlacer testing and the school testing for classroom placement. So it'll be interesting to see. Until we have that definite, I think we should always, of course, push it, study for it, be ready for it. Anything that pushes a student or helps them gain more knowledge and things is it a useful tool. So I'm not saying that the tests are not good or not useful. I just don't know how much more it's going to factor into scholarships and into admissions at a college. They're going to be taking more of a holistic approach.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And our next question is, how beneficial is taking the ACT/SAT, and how does it make a difference submitting either of those scores to colleges, especially now that most prestigious colleges don't require them anymore? Sorry.
It's early.
I think with the SAT and ACT, and we are one of those universities that have gone test optional. That was a requirement that we had for students even applying to the university. We require that they at least submit their test scores, and for scholarships as well. And, we have absolutely detoured away from that approach. And that is not something unique to us, nor is it something unique to the state of Nevada. It is absolutely a trend that you're seeing across the country, is the test score optional or not even needed whatsoever. And a lot of it is absolutely because COVID, which totally changed, everyone's world, and the lack of availability of testing truly was really a big factor of what that came down to. So it will be interesting, like you had mentioned, to see kind of what happens now, I guess, as testing is starting to come back. Is it still useful to take, and is it still useful to submit? Absolutely. At our university, it's not hurting you to send in your test scores, but we are using your test scores for things like mentioned as class placement. So helping figure out which classes to place you in for your math class, for your English class, and then potentially tied in with that, a science class, like a chemistry-based science course. So we are still using test scores for those purposes, and we can use them to get you admitted if your GPA isn't there. So things like that. We do see the benefit of having those test scores in our system. We are still asking students if they have them to send them to us, but you're not being penalized if your score maybe isn't what you think is most reflective of you. And, as also mentioned, AccuPlacer and different testing options that you have to get you placed into different classes also still exists beyond SAT, ACT. So we have other options for class placement, but it's one of the factors that we do use and are continuing to use.
Elizabeth, I have a question for you. SATs, do you see many of your incoming students use SATs anymore?
Specifically from Nevada, no, we absolutely will have far more ACT than we do SAT. But it's different per state. Since we are a state mandated ACT, it's kind of just natural for the students here. Obviously, they do take it because they have to. So then typically when we see a student wanting to retake it, they're taking the ACT again. And that's what we notice a lot of, is our students who are thinking of staying in the state of Nevada, coming in from other places like California and a couple other states around the country. We see more SATs. So it's very regional and very almost state specific what we're seeing more of. So it doesn't make a difference, honestly, for us. It's the same. I know some institutions maybe have a preference, but typically it doesn't matter which of the two that you have. But being a state that has a state mandated ACT, we have a much higher rate of ACT than we do SAT at our university.
Okay, that's what I thought.
So I guess even adding on to that, like what would be some useful resources that are available to students in order to better their chances at admissions to their colleges, or help them throughout that whole process of applying to colleges?
Research. Utilize your resources at your high schools, your counselors or guidance counselors. I don't know, each school is different, right? So as Elizabeth can speak to UNR, I can speak to Lowry. We have a career center set up, and that's probably that first step. Go in and talk. You have to be your own advocate. I know that's a scary thing for a lot of students, but you have to ask the questions, write your questions down, because you'll be doing things and you'll think of them and you'll be like, oh, I'll go in and ask, Mrs. Fifield that tomorrow, and you're going to forget it. So write your questions down when you're doing your research. Email, go in, set appointments, call. That's, I think, number one is utilizing your resources.
From a junior student perspective, it would be really useful to talk to someone, me personally, I have a sort of plan laid out for me, but do I know that's the right path? Do I know, what is that the next step? And that's probably a lot of the questions that some of our Nevada students have in all over the state.
I think as far as resources go for students to use, a lot of it, and this is kind of hard with colleges, it really falls on you. You have your college career center reps at every high school, if not a counselor who's in charge of kind of the college process. Every school has them. I've been to all, except for Lowry, I haven't been there yet, but I've been at the two of your schools because I used to work in our Las Vegas recruitment office. And I know that they have really phenomenal teams that are there to help you. And that goes, I know, for every school in the state. Utilize that because it gets a little overwhelming. You know, as I'm right now in classrooms, I just presented last week at Worcester, and I was telling the students, you know, right now it's September and it feels like things are really far away. But before you know it, suddenly there's deadlines in October. Things are opening up in October. Suddenly there's deadlines in February. And then before you know it, schools are sending out offer letters. You're making your decision May 1st, and then you're graduated. Things happen very quickly. So it's really important for you to stay on top of them. You know, right now, maybe if you're still kind of starting that college process, maybe you're a junior, starting to think about the things that matter to you. What do you want out of your college experience? What are you looking for? What are the most important factors to you? Is it who has your major? Maybe you're undeclared. Maybe it's costs. Maybe it's, you know, the feel you get when you attend the university. What kind of experience do you want from college? Visiting campuses, if you can, is, I think, so important, but it's different for everyone. You know, I know some people, they're not that type of person where you kind of just know. And I trusted that. And I mean, it was, I think, the best decision I made. I love the university. And if you are able to, and like was mentioned, if you can't, virtual tours, like we offer virtual tours of our campus that are actually led by like a student ambassador, one of our tour guides. So it's still a live tour in the sense that you're talking with someone who's answering questions. You're not just like, here's a YouTube video of campus. So I know there's a lot more engagement when it comes to these types of campus tours as well. But the more that you can start doing early, the better, visiting campuses and that kind of stuff. One of the resources I suppose I recommend is, you know, in terms of like a calendar and keeping track of everything, having maybe like an Excel document, something in Google, whatever like media you use, where you just keep track of every college you're interested in and the ones that you kind of think you want to apply for, keeping track of important dates, and then putting a check whenever you complete that. So that way you're not realizing, you know, oh, I missed this deadline, I missed that deadline. Every school has a different deadline. That's even for the state of Nevada. There's not like, this is the date where you have to apply. Every school is different. So it's really important to make sure that you have a way to make sure that you've submitted, you know, a column for transcripts, test scores, immunization records, the application itself, the scholarship application, because it becomes a lot when you're not only focused on one institution, but maybe 6 different schools, to make sure that you're completing everything you need to do, because missing a deadline by 2 days truly could be the difference between you getting $500 versus you getting $9,000. So using some kind of way to organize yourself to make sure you're not missing any of those important dates. And then, you know, there's all those college search websites out there. So you can look at those, you know, US World and News reports and those types of things to help filter potentially the kind of schools that you're looking for. But I know, again, everyone is different. You might be looking for a specific athletic program. You might be looking for a specific community, a vibe of campus, different clubs and organizations that they have, Greek life. Whatever it is, you know, those large college searches typically have those types of filters for you to be able to find. But yeah, utilize your college and career center rep. And then, you know, plug for admissions rep. Like we said, I'm an admissions rep for the university, and every school in the state of Nevada, every college really has a prospective students office, has an admissions office, have people here to help you. Some are more hands-on than others. We are a very hands-on institution at the University of Nevada, Reno. So we have admissions representatives assigned to every single school throughout the state of Nevada. Then we're assigned just kind of by state, by area, things like that, depending on around the country. So like for me, the schools, I visit my schools that I have assigned to me, and I'm there 2, 3, 4, I think like some of my schools I'm at 6 times in 1 month. We text with our students, so we communicate with you that way. I always try to be very present for my students, and every admissions counselor I know, honestly, for all of our colleges here in the state, we're all try to be very present essentially for our students. Like I said, at the University of Nevada, Reno, we even have an office in Las Vegas where we have a full recruitment team who goes and visits, you know, the valleys and the ATEX, and they're visiting all of those schools very regularly. Take advantage of asking us questions. I can't tell you how often I'll talk to a student and it's April and they're like, yeah, I know, I saw that you had texted me, but I didn't know if you were a bot texting me, or if, you know, my friend had already given me the answer, and sometimes maybe it's not necessarily the information that they needed or the right answer. So don't feel intimidated to contact the colleges. That's why we have admissions office. Every university has an admissions office, and they're there to help students. So don't feel intimidated giving a college a call. Ask the questions. If you're not sure about something, we have someone that can find out. And that goes for admissions, for financial aid, for scholarship assistance, for the Disability Resource Center on campus, and all sorts of things. If there's things that you need to know more about, just make sure that you're asking. Once you get to kind of this point, a lot of it's on you. And just know that those resources are available should you seek them out.
All right, well, we are going to wrap up this episode of Let's Talk Tuesday. It was an honor to have both of you on our episode. Thank you both very much for joining us today.